Last week, Thomas asked the question, Lord, how do we know the way to the Father? And Jesus said, you know the way because you know me. This week, Philip says, Lord, how can we see the Father? And Jesus says, you have seen me. It's almost like Jesus is kind of the answer to all of these questions. There was a Sunday school teacher once who I was talking to who was doing the Sunday school thing. He was asking, okay, so we're talking about an animal. It's small, brown, has a big bushy tail, and likes acorns. What is it? And one very smart kid in the class goes, I think it's a squirrel, but I'm going with Jesus. Because that is the correct Sunday school answer, of course. And we make fun of the idea that Jesus is the answer, but it's like, but also he is the answer. And we mock the idea because we want to avoid the fact that that is the answer sometimes. All the time, constantly. Anyway, we move on. Jesus makes it clear that he and the Father are not separable. When you see one, you see the other. When you obey one, you obey the other. When you glorify one, you glorify the other. When the Son acts, it is the Father acting through him, which brings him forward to verse 11. Not only is Jesus saying you need to know that the Father is in the Son and the Son is in the Father, but you need to know that the Father works through the Son. So, verse 11. Excuse me. Believe me that I am in the Father and the Father is in me. Otherwise, believe because of the works themselves. And now, if you've been with us for the majority of the Gospel of John, you'll find that phrase is actually a little bit confusing. Constantly in the Gospel of John, we have Jesus doing a miracle, and then all the crowd saying, wow, that was amazing, and they believed in him, and Jesus disavowed them in their faith. Why? Because they were believing on account of the sign and the sign alone. They were putting their trust in the gift, not the gift giver. And so for Jesus now to say, if you cannot just simply believe me, then believe because of the works themselves. And you say, wait a minute, isn't that the opposite of what you've been saying this entire time? No. Why? The difference here is this. The call here is not to trust in the rabbi, and it's not to trust in the works and the gifts themselves. The call here is to look at the works and see unequivocally the Father working through the Son. The crowds were unable to do this. The crowds only saw what they wanted to see with these signs. Jesus is saying, you, my disciples, you who are going to bring the gospel out into the world and to record it in books for us to read later, you need to be able to understand that these signs are all for a purpose, to show that the Father is working through the Son, to show that the Son of God is God in the flesh. The call here is to trust the Son and the Father are one by examining the works. So, let's examine the works. There were 7 miracles, very intentionally, there are 7 miracles listed in the Gospel of John. Let's start at the first one. 1, he turns water to wine. First of all, the best party trick known to man. Second of all, what happens here? What does the crowd see? The crowd see a longer, more fun wedding feast. I mean, it's not a bad thing. Happy days. But the disciples, looking back on this, what can they examine about this sign? They can see the Father filling and making new these stale Jewish ritual jars with the blood of Christ. Because that was the main part of the miracle, if we recall. It wasn't just, he transmuted water into wine. It was he filled these Jewish ritual cleansing jars with water and turned the water to wine. What does Jesus use to represent his blood in the Last Supper? Wine. What the disciples can see then is they can see the promises of God renewing the ancient religion. The Father has longed for renewal in Israel's religion. Amos chapter 5, verses 21 through 23, we see God speak very harshly against the dead and stale Jewish religion at the time. He says, I despise your religious festivals. Your assemblies are a stench to me. Even though you bring me burnt offerings and grain offerings, I will not accept them. Though you bring choice fellowship offerings, I will have no regard for them. Away with the noise of your songs, I will not listen to the music of your harps. And yet the Father renews the Jewish religion in Christ. Miracle number 2, he heals a Roman official's son. Roman official has a dying son, sends servants, or goes out to meet Jesus and says, my son is dying, can you heal him? Jesus says, at this moment, your son is healed. From afar, from a distance, your son is healed. Man goes home, servants meet him, and they say, your son is healed. The crowds actually barely see anything here. At most, they see or hear about a child being healed. Great, beautiful, wonderful. But the disciples can examine this and they can see that the Father is extending his grace to the Gentiles. This was a Roman kid who was healed by the grace of their God, not an Israelite kid. And so the Jews can see God's grace is for the nations, not just for me. The disciples can see this and know this to be true. This is something that God has been longing for since Genesis forever, but he makes it known to us in Genesis chapter 12, verse 3, where he is making his covenant with Abraham, and he says, I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse, and all peoples on the earth will be blessed through you. God's plan was never to make a single nation for his own, but rather to call all nations to his glory. Miracle number 3, healing the lame man. He's at the pool of Bethesda. He's never able to get down into the pool, or pool of Siloam, not Bethesda. He's never able to get into the pool for healing, and so Jesus shows up, heals the guy,